Welcome back to another reading, folks. Today I'm taking a look at Selena Gomez. And I didn't know that she was born in Texas and decently close to me. I didn't know that she was a Texas girl. I'm going to take a look at her astro chart first before I get into the rest of her readings. Something I should say that is that I am just hitting the highlights. I'm not covering her whole chart. And let's take a look and see what the universe has in store for her. She was born with her sun in Cancer in her 12th house. This is someone who is deeply private, who enjoys being at home behind closed doors, and she enjoys family in general. There's also the sense that she's able to keep family secrets very secret with that landing in her 12th house. And it's interesting that her sun is in her 12th house. This is the sun is normally what we present to the world, but when it's in our 12th house, it's hidden. It's really deeply hidden too. It's like this is someone who is deeply protective of family to the point where she's going to keep something secret that maybe shouldn't be kept secret, or she's going to hide a lot of the emotional trauma, a lot of the generational trauma that comes from being born into her family. She's going to keep that really, really quiet. She enjoys being at home, but here's the thing. Her moon is in Aries in her 9th house of journeys, of travel. The 12th house is about secrets. The 9th house is about getting out there. And it shouldn't be a surprise that her moon in Aries in her 9th house has a really tense relationship with her sun in Cancer in her 12th house. It's squaring energy, if you will. This is something that she's going to constantly feel the tug and pull of. With that water and fire energy, that's going to be really powerful, push, pull, unbalanced kind of feeling. And it's interesting, the sun is of fire and the moon is traditionally of water, so there's an even more powerful kind of pull there. She wants to be at home, but at the same time she feels so emotionally fulfilled by traveling, by being on the road, by being on stage, by being a leader, by being out there in ways that her sun in Cancer in her 12th house doesn't enjoy. Sun in Cancer in 12th house with her, she likes to stay at home. She likes to hang out with her kids. I don't know, something I should say is I'm not a fan of Selena per se, but I want to see her reach her best and highest self, and that's part of why I'm doing this reading, is to help. This is someone who really, I said that she enjoys traveling. She enjoys being on stage. She enjoys being a leader. She enjoys being a role model. She likes it when, I was getting the feeling that she finds it satisfying when little kids imitate her, sing her song. She feels like she's doing the right thing when kids are motivated by her, and I wouldn't be surprised to see that orientation, enjoyment of children enjoying what she does with that sun in Cancer in 12th house. And she's not going to talk about that too extensively, but there's still a satisfying element for her that she keeps to herself. She has a lot of secrets, I should say, with the sun being such a secretive sign for her. There's a lot of stuff that she doesn't talk about that shouldn't be like pearls before swine, okay? She is aware of some people just don't deserve her secrets, but there's a whole lot more. There's a really powerful, mysterious vibe around her, and that's real. It comes from a very real place. She's not just putting on airs. That comes from a person who is still water, who runs deep, who keeps secrets, and who just doesn't talk that much. Like, things stay behind closed doors with her. Her Venus is in Leo in her 1st house, and this is someone who is deeply expressive, and surprise, she's on the world stage. I think partly because of this. It was so easy for her to grab attention. It suggests that she is a beautiful person, and by many people's standards she is. With that being in Leo, she's like a doubly beautiful person. So Venus is of earth, Leo is of fire. There's going to be a small bit of unstable energy right there, in the sense that earth, or Venus likes to stay put, and Leo or fire energy likes to go and explore and find new people to hang out with. So admiration is something that comes to her easily. Like, it's easy for her to gather up more fans. She does like to be the center of attention, and she also likes to be be in beautiful surroundings. She likes beautiful objects. She likes collecting beautiful things that she finds beautiful, for instance. And I could kind of see how Sun and Cancer in her 12th house, she would like to have her home to be an especially beautiful setting with all the objects that she finds most attractive. So let's talk about her Chiron in her Leo in her first house. So she had Mercury and Venus in her in Leo in the first house. This is someone who is able to talk quickly and easily and in such a way that people are just attracted to her. So that Mercury in Leo in the first house is another transit that really encouraged her, laid the foundation for her to become famous, okay? Now, she's also got Chiron, which is a pain point for everybody's born with a Chiron wound, okay? So regardless of where it appears in your birth chart, it can hurt you on a more individual basis, or it can hurt when it comes to your connection to outsiders. In her case, this is her connection to outsiders that constantly gives her pain. So I think that's interesting. She's got a major pressure point in alongside her Venus and her Mercury. There's more stuff that she hides when it comes to how painful it can be sometimes to be around people. I understand that her Chiron is in her first house, which is where she talks about it, she makes it known, she makes it clear, people see that. Unfortunately, she'd probably like to keep some things about her struggle secret, because people see her struggling for recognition in the groups that she wants to be in. This is her chasing down friend groups that seem impossible for her to have. It's a discouraging transit. She also has the potential to self-sabotage with this Chiron and Leo in her first house. People see that. There's not much secret about these wounds that she carries around, especially in Leo. People really, really see this. It's on a stage, so to speak. And it's like nobody wants their pain on display. But I think us recognizing that everyone carries around a Chiron wound is going to do a lot of healing for us all, not just ourselves. Something else I noticed with her Chiron and Leo in her first house is that she compares herself to others in unfavorable ways. And this is something that she talks about, and if she doesn't talk about it, people notice it. This is a sucky transit to have in such a public-facing house, such as the first house. Okay? So those are her highlights. Those are a little bit of an explanation as to why she became famous. It was in her stars, so to speak. So I want to move on to some other questions that I've got about her. My first question is, who is she for real, behind closed doors, when it's just her? And what kind of person is she when her actions, her behavior, her words don't affect anyone else but her? Okay? Who is she really? I'm going to pull out my Lenormand cards and I'll be right back. So I'm doing a portrait spread when it comes to asking who she is really. In the center of her spread, she has house, which doesn't surprise me at all. I would expect to see that, of a Cancer. But this is also pointing to what goes on behind closed doors. And I'll talk more about what goes on behind closed doors, or at least did, for Selena. This whole spread actually is suggesting that she's been through some rough shit. First and foremost, child star. Right away, public child. Someone who has made their living in the public. Right away, this is about her. But this is also about someone who represses and hides away from drama, who really, really doesn't like it, who does their best to end it, to put a stop to it, but she just isn't successful. With the birds, that lands on the house of bouquet, which is about the world, about social connections, about everyone, her fans included, talking about her constantly. No matter how hard she tries to get away from this, there might even be some lies circulating out there that she's trying to deliberately misdirect from something that people are talking about, but it just isn't successful. Unfortunately, this is someone who has never had the privacy that they really, really wanted. And with that Sun in Cancer in the 12th house, that makes perfect sense. It's still really difficult for her to have. This is about, I'm looking at the frame around her portrait spread, deeply repressed, and it's because she was in an abusive situation growing up at home. Okay? On the vertical level, in the past, I've got child, whip, and coffin, which tells me about, unfortunately, it's sexual abuse, because underneath the house card and underneath the cross card, again, reading on a vertical level, this talks to me about sexual misconduct going on in the home, and that's just created a constant burden on her. She feels like she needs to be a role model even more strongly because of what she's gone through. And make no mistake, her inner child hauls around a tremendous burden, and people don't always see it. It's on display, but whether people see her for her and what she's gone through, I don't know that many people do. It takes a perceptive person to really see Selena for who she is. There's a lot that she displays in such a public sphere, but on the other hand, there's a lot of secrets that she keeps because it's just painful. I can see in her, this is the diagonal, I can see in her diagonal pointing to her past that she's got garden, house, and coffin. This is about her really working hard to keep certain things from the public because it's, like I was saying, it's painful. I don't feel like she's dealt with this completely. She did just finish her Saturn return in Aquarius, and I don't remember which house it was in. But if there were any things that she could have learned about herself as a younger child and who she is as an adult, it would have been during that time period. And with Uranus being the ruling planet over Aquarius, things might have changed really suddenly, and that might have felt really rough for her. So, child, cross, and garden are on her conscious levels on the top horizontal row. The middle horizontal row is whip, house, and clover. Abuse in her family it's just there. It's become such a strong part of their environment and part of their family dynamic that it's just taken for granted. This is just how things are, and it's not just them, it's her too. She just takes for granted that her family, her home life is just rough and abusive. She knows she doesn't want to go back to them, but she does out of a sense of obligation because that Sun in Cancer in her 12th house is so powerful. I wonder if that, in some cases, the 12th house is kind of like the basement that things that we don't want to deal with gets thrown into, and in that case, they have tremendous control over us, and I wonder if that isn't some of what's going on here. This is abuse, drama, sexual abuse, trauma. She's repressing this, and yet people, are still talking about this, or somebody is. Somebody in the industry, if it's not fans, and there's a suggestion that it is some fans, at least in her social circles, there are some people who are talking about this, and of course she hates it, because there's nothing that she can really do about it. There's nothing she can do about the trauma that's come from the past, or people talking about this. It sucks. In her future, she has garden, clover, and birds. Just kind of taking for granted, like shit happens, people are going to talk. In the future, she's just going to, abandon her past to the future. Now that's interesting. like in the future, she's just going to slowly stop caring just through being exposed to people talking and talking and talking about her. It's exhausting for her. It's an albatross around her neck. There's the possibility that she could have some drama around children in the future, around her children in the future, because that is the diagonal that leads towards the future in this particular case. Like, she's going to really try to keep things private and behind closed doors just to give her kids a break. Like, it's a well-meaning wanting privacy and wanting to keep things behind closed doors, because kids don't ask for, like, she feels like kids don't ask for her kind of fame, that they don't deserve it, in the sense that they don't deserve, like, the double-edged sword that fame is for her. Okay, that's enough for her portrait spread. Someone who is in deep pain, not all the time, but when it comes to children and remembering how she was treated as a child, that's going to come up. Something that I saw when I was doing her birth chart is that she has Pluto in Scorpio in her 4th house. The 4th house is about family, and Pluto in Scorpio is a really rough transit to have when it comes to your home environment. That is about death, rebirth. What that basically means is there might have been people who passed away that were valuable, who were valuable people to her. It's also about the taboo, and that's kind of where you kind of get that sense that there was some sexual abuse going on at home when she was growing up. That's a rough transit to have. Death and rebirth, the ends of eras, the starts of new ones, that can be a potentially volatile transit to have, for anyone to have. Okay? So moving on to my next question, I'd like a message from Spirit to Selena about her romantic life. I'm going to lay out my cards and I'll be right back. I think it's possible that her Venus and Leo in her first house, is what I should say, covers up a lot of the damage and trauma coming out of her Pluto and Scorpio in her 4th house, because I see her as someone who carries a lot of the negative cycles from her past as a child into her current romantic relationships. So she's got Lily, Book, and Tower reading from left to right. There we go. Reading from left to right when it comes to her romantic partnerships. These are sexual secrets isolate her. Her next 3 cards are Ship, Bear, and Garden, and the next one after that is Sun. So you can read these like a sentence. These are sexual secrets isolate you. You're on a long-term journey towards releasing the dominance that comes from your past, and also moving forward even further into an even more successful career in the public. Something I should say is that her success and attention on her is something that she's going to have for all her whole life, but it's going to be up to her to decide how public she wants to be with herself. And this journey, when it comes to a message, what Spirit wants to give her, that's what the universe wants her to do, is talk about where she came from in the past and use it as a way to help her become a better role model, a higher quality role model. There's a lot of healing that she could offer to others if she were to talk about this. But again, I don't know that she will. That's a really, like, Pluto and Scorpio in the 4th house is a really rough transit to have. And because that's all about the family home, and because her Sun is in Cancer, there we go, Sun in Cancer in her 12th house, it's just going to be easier for her to hide with her pain and not talk about this. But the universe really wants her to talk about where she came from, how that affects her romantic life, and there's going to be a lot of healing that comes from that, as rough and as difficult as it will be. Chiron also appears with Venus, just like I was saying earlier, that it appears with Venus. So that's going to be just a source of pain, even after she goes public, if she goes public with what happened to her in the past, there's still going to be, she won't be able to run away from all of the pain, just from most of it. Some of it, if she chooses not to heal it completely and entirely with the group. I feel like that with Lily, Book, and Tower landing on Ryder, Clover, and Ship, that she's been on a really long-term journey when it comes to keeping how she was raised, how she grew up, a secret. Again, these are damaging sexual things for all children if it happens to them. And it happened to her, I feel like. And here's the rough thing. This appears on the house of the Rider, which means that if news hasn't already gotten out, and I didn't do any research into her apart from her birth chart, so if something has gotten out or if it hasn't yet, there's the real risk that this could happen in the future. This might have already happened in the past, that some people are talking about this, but not everybody may be. This is about risk and reward being found in the release of secrets that have been held for a long time. And this is landing on the house of the Ship, which is a long-term journey. That she's always been isolated, and that's part of where the power in her Pluto and Scorpio in the 4th house comes from, is her family knows that she'll keep this a secret, so that they don't have to face it, so that they don't have to deal with it. Okay. Let me move on to another question. That's a rough message to have when it comes to romantic interests, but people like we all deserve the truth. Even if it's painful. Something else I want to know is she happy in life? And if she isn't, what can she do to get there? I'm going to shuffle my cards and I'll be right back. Is Selena Gomez feeling happy in life? Is she happy with her life? I don't feel like she feels fulfilled. This is the Judgment card in reverse, and it's in her central theme. And I see her as being an incredibly defensive person. This is what's crossing her. She's defensive from everybody. She's expecting everyone and anyone to just randomly come up to her and hurt her. And so she shuts things down before they can get to her. Extremely defensive, not only from the universe, but from everybody. She's got stories. She's got secrets to hide. Stories to tell, but she feels like she can't, so she doesn't. She feels like people would look at her negatively. And some of them might. Not everybody would, but a whole lot of people, shallow people, would look at her in a different light if she were to talk about what she's really struggling with, what she's going through, that kind of thing. In her past, she's got Temperance. A while back, she got out of control with something. It was with her pain, with how much pain her family's causing her. Things are out of balance, and eventually the universe will offer her an opportunity to right things herself. But with this in reverse, it feels like the universe is more forcing that balance to come back into her life. Again, with the number 36, I said 30, I don't think that, she's 36 years old yet. No, she's not. I can do math. But something I saw with Taylor Swift is that around 36, something was going to happen major. Earthquake making changes. And the same things goes for Selena, that around 35, 36, she's going to be offered a chance to face up to the things that happened to her in the past and how she's dealt with it in her romantic partnerships going into the future. How has she dealt with it? If things weren't finished changing by her Saturn return in Aquarius, which finished last year, then they will be by the time she's 35 or 36, somewhere in there. The changes are going to solidify, and it might be rough and it might not be. It's going to depend on the changes that she makes between now and then, okay? I see her as someone who can be easily defeated in conversation, and that makes her deeply unhappy with that Chiron and Leo. She's going to want acceptance with the groups that she admires, and it feels like they always escape her, like she never has access to them the way that she wants, and even that there is some drama with them. The Five of Swords can be a really rough card. It says that someone may have backstabbed her, may have told lies about her, sent rumors around that made things just really rough for Selena. And she doesn't see herself as a very strong person. So no, I don't feel like she's terribly happy. I think that she goes through a rough time pretty constantly, between friends, between family members, between repeating cycles from the past in her romantic partnerships. I think that she struggles to genuinely feel happy from a safe, secure place. And Cancers love being safe and secure in their homes, and I don't feel like she has inner peace, so her home doesn't feel peaceful, doesn't bring about the state of Zen that she deserves to have. In her future, she has the Hierophant. There is the potential that she could take a spiritual path or follow a spiritual leader towards her best and highest self. There's the real, not risk, there's the risk that she could ignore them, but the rewards, if she accepts help from the universe, is going to be tremendous, from her ancestors, her guides, from Source, whatever deity she's in alignment with. She's going to be encouraged in the future to follow them. She might increase her faith pretty tremendously in the next few years or so, especially between her Saturn return and whatever happens at 35 or 36. This is in her advice position. She's being asked to end an era with her family. You see this? The universe is asking her to end something that should have ended a while back. And I say family because in her outcome, she's got the Ten of Cups in reverse. This is about her busting any myths that she was ever in a happy family, that she was often heart sore when it came to existing in her home growing up, and that her family, and neither are her friends, her private environment isn't as idyllic as she has led people on to believe. And please don't misunderstand. She's not doing it just for lies or for manipulation or anything like that. This is someone who lies because telling the truth is just so much more genuinely painful. And let's be honest, sometimes lies protect. When something isn't ready to be pulled out there, such as sexual abuse that may have happened when she was young and in the home, that doesn't need to be brought out into the public eye at all, ever, if that's not what's supposed to happen. And in that case, I think that there are some lies that protect us, and in her case, it's about protecting her heart. It's not out of maliciousness or anything like that, okay? In her environment card, she has the Queen of Pentacles. This is the image that she affects, and I would not be surprised at all to see that with her Sun in Cancer in her 12th house, and also with her Venus in Leo in her 1st house. She is going to be the perfect Earth Mother in many, many ways for people, or at least she affects that image. She's definitely someone who is completely stable in her finances. She has no worries whatsoever. This is a person who is relaxed with how much financial stability, how much material stability they have. And in her hopes and her fears, she has the King of Pentacles in reverse, and this is about meeting a romantic partner who she's afraid will waste away everything that she's worked so hard to invest in. I'm getting Justin Bieber didn't Justin Bieber and Selena Gomez date? Because if that's the case, I just did a reading on Justin Bieber, and he just seems to be just like the permanent kid. And I wonder if that isn't why things went south, why they went sour so badly between I'm at least getting that idea. If Justin Bieber's name popped into my head and then I've got this, there's a reason for it. It seems like he would have been someone to have drained all that she has worked so hard for. And it might be what's happening to Haley right now. It might be that Justin Bieber's just a drain on people, not just his romantic partners or family members. He's just a drain on people. And this is what she's kind of a little bit traumatized of going back to. And I couldn't blame her. She's someone who is perfectly strong by herself. She doesn't need a romantic partner to make her feel more materially stable. She's fine as is. But she's definitely afraid of possibly just dating these people forever. It's not what she wants. And I wonder if there isn't something with Dad. It might have been with her dad that he wasted a lot of material comfort, might have wasted a lot of finances in pursuit of his goal, and she's bound and determined to never repeat the past. That could be Dad. Those could be romantic partners. It could be all of the above. But is she happy in life? She affects that image, but there's a whole lot of spiritual work that she needs to do first in order to actually be literally, genuinely happy from a deep place with inner peace and all that good stuff, okay? I've got one more question for her. What was her soul reincarnated to do in this lifetime? I'm going to shuffle my cards one more time, and I'll be right back. So what is her soul here on Earth to do in this lifetime? Well, first and foremost, she was meant to be a public figure. She was born for this, okay? And it makes the lessons more difficult because these kinds of things play out on a world stage when she just might like privacy. You saw in her birth chart that she really enjoys being behind closed doors. The solution to her pain is to continue to grow steadily when it comes to her spirituality. The tree is about spiritual elements, but it's also about growth. And with the anchor, that's permanent, long-term growth. This is not a tree that can be easily uprooted. She needs to understand that the greatest security comes from inner peace, inner zen, from finding a jushti, if you will, finding a center in her faith, in her guides, her ancestors. That's going to do a lot in helping her feel like she's not just adrift constantly. And it's interesting that I say adrift, because here we've got ship, sun, and fox. The fox is between these two cards in this case, okay? This is on the row that talks about something that she may or may not know about. If she continues to work on her spiritual aspect, in the sense that she comes closer to source, she's going to be able to battle selfishness, or around this idea that only she takes good care of herself and because nobody else can. It's a kind of selfishness, but it's not malicious. Again, she doesn't lie or become selfish out of personal gain. Of course, there's something that she gets out of it. It's a temporary respite from her pain. This is someone who hurts and who sometimes needs to do stuff in order to get away from the pain, at least temporarily. I do see success in her eventually conquering her need to defend herself against the rest of the world. That's again if she can get grounded in her spiritual center. In her future, if she doesn't change things as they are, unfortunately, I see her as someone who's going to continue to repress what happened with her when she was a little kid. And there's just like pretty consistently the sexual abuse has shown up in my cards. And I saw with that Pluto and Scorpio in the 4th house that there was that risk. That's a transit that Eugenia Cooney also has, and that's something that I saw in her birth chart as well, or at least in her cards. that dealing with sexual abuse was just there. It becomes omnipresent, and I think for her it's just going to be easier to repress these secrets than it is to expose them. Trying to get it so you can see them. So I know that we talked about her being able to grow and become an incredible role model for people who have suffered like she has, but I don't know that she will. She can make a choice to do this, but so far, she's not doing what she's been put on earth to do, to get on a platform and talk about what happened and uplift others and, in a sense, heal her own Chiron wound. I don't see her doing that in this lifetime. There's that real risk. If she wanted to avoid that risk, then she would need to become anchored in her spiritual side. But that's a choice that she's going to have to make. Folks, that is all for me when it comes to reading for Selena Gomez. If something else big happens, then I'll go back to her and read for her if that's what Spirit wants. But otherwise, I thank you for watching to this point. I hope you have a great rest of your day.